ready to start this meeting or not? I do believe we are. Now, we have good. David Raindrop Hartman, I do need you on stage. Thank you. We have a few minutes of music for you with Mark Hochberg at the piano. Yay. With Dr. Come on back here. With Dr. I got it written down, I can't forget. With Dr. Sharon Rosen. Sharon Rosen. I had it right the first time. I started it. See? Oh, boy. I think I need this meeting. And with David Raindrop Hartman, who is my husband.
Yay!
They're all going to be joining me in song. But before we do this, I wanted to welcome all of you here. So glad to see you all. It's going to be really, really good meeting because Dr. Trin knows how to talk and is the most caring man I've met. Beside my husband, of course. But let's see here. What else? Oh, and I also want to thank all our wonderful sponsors. They are giving their donations directly to Alzheimer's of Orange County. And Alzheimer's, I want to talk about the club that's sponsoring this event, or supporting this event. My husband and I started this club back in 2009. And with the help of Alzheimer's OC, it's been going strong ever since. Our meetings in January are going to be the second Monday of every month in the same location where we've been, which is the Performing Arts Center, also known as Clubhouse 3, in Dining Room 2 at 10 o'clock in the morning. This is the second Monday of every month, okay? I wanted to tell you about my dad. My dad had Alzheimer's, a couple of his sisters, and his mom, although they didn't diagnose it as such back then. That was a long time ago. But my dad had this uncanny ability to make people smile, to make people laugh. That's my job today, which is why I'm going to start with a little song called I'm Getting Nuttin' for Christmas. Yes. My shoelaces are untied on purpose. I'm a bad girl. Right. I broke my bat on Johnny's head, but somebody snitched on me. Was that you? I put a frog in my sister's bed, but somebody snitched on me. I spilled some ink on Mommy's rug. I made Tommy eat a bug. Bought some gum with a penny slug, but somebody snitched on me. That wasn't you? No. Well, I put a tack in teacher's chair. Somebody snitched on me. I tied a knot in Susie's hair, but somebody snitched on me. I did a dance on Mommy's plants. I climbed that tree, I tore my pants. I filled the sugar bowl with ants, but somebody snitched on me. I won't be seeing Santa Claus, 'cause somebody snitched on me. He won't come visit me because somebody snitched on me. Next year I'll be going straight. Next year I'll be good, just wait. I'd start now, but it's too darn late, 'cause somebody snitched on me. Oh, I'm getting nothing for Christmas. Mommy and Daddy are mad, I don't know why. I'm getting nothing for Christmas, 'cause I ain't been nothing but bad. So you better be good, whatever you do, 'cause if you don't, I'm warning you, you're getting nothing for Christmas.
Okay, I'm advised that I'm next. I'm going to do a song that has nothing to do with the holiday season, but it's quite a beautiful song from the Broadway musical Lost in the Stars. The name of the song is Lost in the Stars by Kurt Weill. Mark at the piano. Before Lord God made the sea and the land, he held all the stars in the palm of his hand, and they ran through his fingers like grains of sand, and one little star fell alone. And the Lord God hunted through the wide night air for the little dark star all the way down there. And he stated and promised he'd take special care so it wouldn't get lost again. Now a man don't mind if the stars grow dim, and the clouds blow over and darken him. So long as the Lord God's watching over him, keeping track how it all goes on. But I've been walking through the night and the day, till my eyes get weary and my head turns gray. And sometimes I wonder, maybe God's gone away, forgetting his promise that we heard him say. And we're lost out here in the stars, little stars, big stars, blowing through the night. And we're lost out here in the stars, little stars, big stars, blowing through the night. And we're lost out here in the stars. In the stars. Thank you.
Now we're going to bring Sharon up here.
Which song are we doing? My turn by myself? It's my turn by myself. Oh, good, the words are nice and big. This is a song called 8 Days of Hanukkah. You may not know the song in of itself, but you will know the melody. I am not sure who put this together. I originally heard it on a recording of the Navy Chorale. Did a record of Hanukkah music about 30 years ago. And when I listened to this, I went, well, this is singable and for everybody. So if you catch on the chorus, you are certainly welcome to sing along. This is called 8 Days of Hanukkah, but you'll recognize it immediately. Once there was a time we had a temple where every Jew would go 3 times a year. There we worshipped God in our tradition, till suddenly a tyrant did appear. Then at Modi Mattathias told us, whoever is with God, come join our band. Led by Judah and his faithful brothers, we drove the tyrant from our holy land. 8 days of Hanukkah, 8 days of Hanukkah, we celebrate the festival of lights. These days in history still live for you and me. Let's keep the flame flame forever shining bright. 8 days of Hanukkah, 8 days of Hanukkah, we celebrate the festival of lights. Those days in history still live for you and me. Let's keep the flame forever shining bright. When they came to dedicate the temple, how their hearts were heavy with despair. Impurities and idols all around them, and just one jar of holy oil was there. But with faith in God they cleansed the temple, kindled that small lamp with hope and love. Then the story had a happy ending. 8 days of blessed light came from above. 8 days of Hanukkah, 8 days of Hanukkah, we celebrate the festival of light. Those days in history still live for you and me. Let's keep the flame forever shining bright. 8 days of Hanukkah, 8 days of Hanukkah, we celebrate the festival of light. Those days in history still live for you and me. Let's keep the flame forever shining bright.
Thank you, Cyril. Now we are going to feature Mark as he does the Carol of the Bells. Mark. Thank you. Thank you. I don't think I'm going to need this thing, but I always keep it around just in case. Okay. I'm going to give you the Christmas song. A lot of times people don't even know what that is. That's chestnuts roasting. Here we go. Chestnuts roasting on an open fire, Jack Frost nipping at your nose. Yuletide carols being sung by a choir, and folks dressed up like Eskimos. Everybody knows that turkey and some mistletoe, they help to make the season bright. Tiny tots with their eyes all aglow will find it hard to sleep tonight. They know that Santa's on his way. He's loaded lots of toys and goodies on his sleigh. And every mother's child is on the spot to see if those little reindeer, they really know how to fly. And so I'm offering this simple phrase to kids from 1 to 90, 122. Although it's been said many times, many ways, Merry Christmas, oh Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas to you and you and you and you and you and all of you. Thank you. Next on the agenda is, somebody tell me quick. I made the program, but I don't ever remember it. Yay! Yay!
From the very, very delightful Broadway musical, My Fair Lady, you know...
This is part of making everybody laugh.
Oh. Okay. Now, the reason I do the yo-yo is that a long time ago, when I first sang On the Street Where You Live from My Fair Lady, I thought it would add a little mirth to use the yo-yo, because the young man who sings On the Street Where You Live is a very, very goofy guy, head over heels in love with Liza Doolittle. And so he sings On the Street Where You Live. Mark at the piano. I have often walked down this street before, but the pavement always stayed beneath my feet before. All at once am I several stories high, knowing I'm on the street where you live. Are there lilac trees in the heart of town? Can you hear a lark in any other part of town? Does enchantment pour out of every door? No, it's just on the street where you live. And oh, the towering feeling just to know somehow you are near. The overpowering feeling that any second you may suddenly appear. People stop and stare, they don't bother me, for there's nowhere else on earth that I would rather be. Let the time go by, I won't care if I can be here on the street where you live.
Oh, what a man, what a man. And one of the things I haven't done on each song, so I'm going to do it now. I just have to thank Mark for his wonderful support as we do these songs. Thank you, Mark. We got one final song for you. It's a counterpoint. Do you know what a counterpoint is? It is when, well, first I sing, she sings, then we sing at the same time. We're singing different songs, but it goes all together. So that's what we're going to do for you right now. It's called...
Well, let me explain. Everybody knows it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas.
Yep.
Meredith Willson wrote that song as a popular song in the 50s. And then he wrote a Broadway musical version of Miracle on 34th Street and said, I've already got this perfectly good Christmas song. What else can I do with it? And he wrote this other melody then to be sung with it at the same time. Two separate songs, but at the same time. So now we'll do that.
Pine Cones and...
Holly Berries.
You got it. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas everywhere you go. Take a look in the Grand Hotel. There's one in the park as well, with candy canes and girly lanes that go. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Soon the bells will chime, but the thing that will make them ring is the melody in your heart. Right within your heart.
Pine cones and holly berries, popcorn for you, apples for me, red striped candy, nutcracker handy, kettle a-bubbling, holiday tea, snow clouds hang low and threatening, maybe it won't, praying it may, the brightest fireplace glows in every face, waiting for Christmas Day. Jingle bells will jingle all the way, all day.
It's beginning to look a lot like
And holly berries, popcorn for you, apples for me,
There's a tree
red
in the Grand
striped
Hotel,
candy,
one in the park
nutcracker
as well,
handy,
the sturdy kind
kettle
that
a bubbling,
doesn't mind the
holiday
snow.
tea.
It's beginning to look a lot
Clouds
like
hang low and threatening, maybe it won't, praying it may. The brightest fireplace glows in every face, waiting for Christmas Day. Waiting for Christmas Day.
Thank you. And that's all for today. I'm going to be turning it over to Dr. Trin. And thank you. Pretty soon, a little screen will come down, and you're going to see lots of slides and listen to Dr. Trin tell magical stuff. So, thank you.
Thanks so much. Can you guys hear me? All right, real quick, can a representative from each sponsor come up here real quick? And I wanted to introduce you to them. If it were not for them, we would not be here with that. And I know that the majority are part of our community as well, who are here. And we'll just
Now, Dr. Trin and I are going to sing a song for you. It's called Far, Far Away. Okay, sure. We're so glad to be here. My name is Mark Fitter. I brought my friend Susan Hatton with me. Susan is a Wilson Trust estate attorney. I do real estate and I'm a law student as well. Second career, I was in ministry for 35 years. Our friend Chuck McLucas is a CPA. We can help you with everything in real estate, wills, trusts, estate, and particularly if you have highly appreciated property, a charitable remainder trust will help you avoid capital gains taxes. So come back and see us in the corner. Thank you.
I'm sorry I don't have such a prepared speech, but I'm from the American Legion. We are always looking for veterans who would like to be a member of our organization, and I hope that some of you will consider it. We're back there in the back rights, and we have application forms, so please back there and visit us.
Thank you. I'm Mike Maxon, president of the Kiwanis Club here in Laguna Woods. And for 50 years, we have been here as a club trying to provide service to this community and to the communities around. This year, our club will be giving almost $100,000 to various community projects, plus scholarships to Saddleback College, the Saddleback Hospital, and numerous high schools. So we want to thank you, and especially for one of our key members, we want to thank Dr. Trin and what he's doing here in this community to help.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Carrie Walker, and I have the privilege of representing Alzheimer's Orange County. And I would be willing to bet if I took a poll here and asked you all in here, maybe, what do you think that we do? I would get quite a myriad of responses. And most people, for the longest time, thought we were just raising money for research. And I'm here today, and my partner's in the back at our table to let you know that we're here to help people understand what's happening in the brain when someone has some memory loss. Because the brain is so much more complicated. Let's see, Dr. Trin, now if he had a cat, let's say, what, if you had a brain, do you like to do anything active? What's one of your active activities? Something a little more daredevil than most. He likes to eat. Well, I was thinking of something maybe a little more athletic, maybe like snowboarding or something. Do you do any of that? Maybe Alex does. Okay. Now let's say Alex came in here and he had a horrible snowboarding accident, but he wanted to be here so badly, he decided he was going to come anyway, despite the fact that he's got a cast on his leg. Now, if we all had to run out of here because there was a fire drill, would any of you be looking at him and yelling and saying, "What's wrong with you? Why aren't you running any faster?" Would anybody do that? And why not? Clearly, it's obvious, and we would adjust our expectations. But if we can't see that when someone's brain starts to be affected by the disease, and we naturally assume that that person is doing something on purpose, because why wouldn't they be listening to us? Why wouldn't they be responding like they normally do? So we're here to help people get a better understanding of what's happening in the brain, so then we can then adjust our expectations and also adjust how we're approaching them to use more of a nonverbal communication style. And it's pretty amazing. We can really change how we're able to still interact with that person. And I know Dr. Trin's going to also share some really great things that we can do to keep our brains healthy. And that's the other thing that I wanted you all to do, is we can help you get information about how to keep our brains healthy today. So I encourage you to reach out to us and get to know us a little better. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Alex Dow. I'm a student under Dr. Trin, under his nonprofit called Tongue Out. So we're an organization that has volunteers, students, medical professionals, and we travel to other more underserved nations, and we bring medical clinics to them. We provide basic health education, and we just provide them with God's love and the medicine and the care we can provide with physicians, nurses, and just volunteers.
Hello, I'm Darlene Gulaba. I'm with California Clinical Trials Medical Group, managed by ParExcel. I did want to thank Dr. Trin as well as and Sunshine for allowing us to be sponsors at this event. So what we do, we are a clinical research organization. We're located a little far. We're in Glendale, California. But we do work with pharmaceutical companies to try to find better medicine for different diseases. We specialize in central nervous system and CNS, so a lot of the studies that we're working on now are for patients with Alzheimer's disease, patients with Parkinson's disease, and we also have some studies for patients with osteoporosis. So our mission is really to help, like I mentioned, find better medicine and better diagnostic measures for these actual patient populations. And I really enjoy working with this company. Actually, my father suffered from Alzheimer's, so it's very dear to my heart, you know, what our mission and what we do. I'm here with Sophie and Ashley. We're in the back, so please feel free to stop by. We do also have a memory clinic that offers a free service to anyone in the community where you can see one of our psychologists and neuropsychologists, and they can do a memory evaluation for you for free to see, you know, if you're curious how your memory is doing. We can offer that to you, and also to send a report to your physicians. So thank you.
Good morning. My name is Lisa Calavita, and I am thrilled to be here today as a sponsor. I'm with the Community Civic Association. This is a nonprofit that's here in Laguna Woods. It's been here for about 20 years. Many of you know it as being, Denny Welsh was our founder. We were, obviously, we had a really sad moment last year. We lost Denny, but we are forging forward with her mission, and that is to continue to provide the community with educational information and seminars. So Dr. Trin is going to be a part of that. We're going to be meeting once a month, actually twice a month, potentially, but our first group, our next session of 2018 will be on February 22nd. Come in the back, and it'll be on superfoods and some of the confusion that is among the public. And we hope to provide some information to help guide everybody in those with neurological issues and those without. So thank you for having me, and come see me in the back. Thanks, Dr. Trin.
All right, thanks, guys. Screen.
I forgot to put my bad girl hat on.
Oh, how do you get? Oh. Okay, there's a screen. I think this is my third talk in Clubhouse 5 in the last few months. I still don't know how to use the screen yet with that. Thank you for coming. Yeah, you can take pictures. And okay. Now I gotta figure out how to get the slide. Oh, whoa. Can you guys see that? Do you want the lights down, or are you good? Lights down? Okay. Does anyone know how to do the lights? Better? All right. So I just came back from Boston a few weeks ago, and I was with several hundred researchers from around the world, all researching better treatments for Alzheimer's disease with that. So I had a chance to get updates from folks around the world, from France, from Denmark, from Germany, from Japan, obviously from the US, on what is going on and what kind of progress we have made with this condition. I'm out of curiosity, how many of us here know someone who have a memory problem? Wow. Yeah. And some of you guys have heard some of my talks, and how many of you guys are here for the first time, out of curiosity? Oh my, that's a good number of folks here with that. What I'll do is I'll give you a quick update on the basics behind Alzheimer's, kind of what causes it, the protein, the plaque. Get everyone up to date real quick, and then we can move forward to what's new. Is that good? All right, let's see. Okay. What is a healthy brain like? Our brain, each brain, has about 100 billion brain cells. And each brain cell has tons and tons of connections to the next brain cell. And then when a brain cell is functioning, when our brain is functioning well, one brain cell talks to the next brain cell, and it talks to the next brain cell, and it communicates with that. So this is a brain cell, this is the brain cell, that's a brain cell, and you see all these little hands and fingers that come out? That's how they connect with that, and they communicate. And the locations where both brain cells communicate, where they connect, the term is called synapse. Synapse is the name where they talk with that. When a brain cell functions well, this brain cell will talk to this brain cell and will talk to that brain cell, and it keeps going, and that's how memories are made. That's how our feelings, our thoughts, our emotions, all connected through brain cell to brain cell communication with that. This here is blood vessels going up, and it shows you basically a network of circulation that is needed for our brain to function well. And as a matter of fact, with every heartbeat, every single heartbeat, 25% of your entire blood volume goes through the brain. 1/4 of your blood goes through the brain with each heartbeat. That's quite a bit, because the brain's like 3 pounds. Pretty crazy, right? The point of that is to show you how important it is for circulation in its relationship with Alzheimer's with that. So that is a healthy brain. What does an unhealthy brain look like? Okay. Everyone's heard of the word amyloid by now? Anyone not heard of amyloid? A few, yeah. Yeah, amyloid is the name of the protein that creates these plaques. We heard about like Alzheimer's plaques in our brains. So amyloid builds up abnormally in our brain. And what it does is that it creates these plaques. These are the plaques. And what the amyloid does is that it blocks the brain's communication. It stops that synapse connection I talked about. And when that happens, this is what our brains look like in the brain of an Alzheimer's patient. The brain cells can no longer communicate with one another. So one brain cell can't talk to the next brain cell. And what happens when that occurs? That's when our symptoms start, with memory loss. And not just memory loss, oftentimes with personality changes, mood changes, oftentimes with the loss of the ability to do complex tasks. Those who are able to do, the budget and write checks and do complex things, over time they lose that ability to do those tasks. And that's because of these areas of poor connection, because of these amyloid plaques. I call it synapse blocking with that. So that's a picture of what amyloid kind of looks like and what it does in our brain. This is from, I think, just last month. England, dementia has overtaken heart disease. #1 killer in England. In Orange County, dementia is the #3 killer. Alzheimer's, right behind heart attacks and cancer. Nationwide, currently, dementia or Alzheimer's specifically is the #6 cause of death in the U.S., and it happens to be #3 specifically in Orange County. Not necessarily because we're sicker folks. I think it has something to do with the fact that we actually live longer in Orange County than the rest of the country. But the prediction is by the year 2030, that's just what, 12 years away or so? Alzheimer's is jumping up to the 4th leading cause of death in the country. Why is it so prevalent? Somebody did this. Diet? Big role, right? As a matter of fact, do you guys have a sheet on the table, the Mind Diet? Everyone should have one of those, right? And I'll go over with that soon. Does everyone also have a half sheet that says for more information or something like that on the table? That's for you as well. And the reason why I gave those half sheets is because it's really hard to condense like a 5 days worth of material into an hour's lecture. So you can see me for a completely free consultation to discuss further all these information that I'm going to present to you using that little half sheet with that. Yes, so in the U.S., this problem is just going to get worse with that. And it gets worse simply because we are making this diagnosis way too late. Way too late. By the time a patient comes to see me to complain about memory loss, usually by the time we make this diagnosis in the office, that patient is already at the moderate stage of this disease. The moderate stage. We miss the entire mild stage of this disease. And the mild stage can go from 2 years to 10 years. Why do we miss the mild phase? What do we blame it on when it's mild? Blame it on aging, blame it on doctors, right? Yeah, exactly, right? We blame it on, what do we call it, a senior moment when we're not remembering, or it's at the tip of our tongue but it doesn't come out, or a person's name may be there and we forget their name but we let it go. We just think it's because we're getting older. And as we continue to blame this problem on aging, the disease continues to progress silently until it becomes such a problem that we have to bring it to our doctor's attention. And by that time, the damage is already done, hasn't it? By the time we make this diagnosis, most patients are in the moderate stage. When they're in the moderate stage, there is less opportunity for treatment. There's less opportunity for prevention. There's less opportunities for things that we can do to try to stop this compared to if we were to make this diagnosis or catch this problem way in the beginning. Does that make sense? Prevention is the best medicine, isn't it? But we are catching it way too late. That's our problem with that. Let me tell you a little bit about amyloid and a little bit about how our body works. Our body, within a year, you are actually not you anymore. Every cell in your body has a timeline where that cell dies and is replaced by a new cell. Does that make sense? That's how we are made. That's how we're created and designed. And so the body kind of renews itself. So each cell, one cell will be made. It lives for a certain time, and then it's taken away. It dies. When that balance is off, that's when diseases occur. Let me give you an example. Osteoporosis, right? Osteoporosis is an imbalance between the formation of bone cell and taken away bone cell, right? Osteoblasts versus osteoclast is the term we use in medicine. Blastic is making something, clastic is kind of taking something away. For osteoporosis, when we take away more bone cell than we are making, that's osteoporosis, right? The bones get thin. Let me give you another example. Cancer. Cancer is simply a problem when the cell refuses to die. So it keeps growing, and there's more and more of it. Does that make sense? That's a problem, again, with balance. When a cell does not die and it keeps growing, it invades the body. We call that cancer with that. Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's is an imbalance between the production of amyloid and the removal of amyloid. Believe it or not, the amyloid has a role in the body. There is a cell, or actually a protein, the amyloid, we call it the amyloid precursor protein. It belongs in every cell. It actually has a function. The problem is when this amyloid precursor protein that's in the cell gets broken down to be destroyed, it can be broken down to two different directions. It can be broken down to amyloid beta that leads to Alzheimer's versus another type of amyloid that is healthy actually for the brain and for nerves. It is an imbalance of amyloid. More production than destruction that causes Alzheimer's. Does that make sense? It's kind of like the yin and the yang in China. I gotta mention that, I'm Asian. So we gotta like balance it all out with that. But yeah, homeostasis is how that works. All right, let's go to the next slide. Let's talk about something new. How many of you guys have heard of tangles? Okay, maybe a fifth of you. We've talked about amyloid. Amyloid is plaques. You will sometimes hear the word tangles that go along with it, plaques and tangles. Tangles is something that's been around. It is part of a protein called tau. Tau tangles. This is interesting because tau tangles is just as prevalent in Alzheimer's as amyloid is, but we never talk about it. This is new. And what we have noticed lately is we are now studying these tau proteins. These proteins also are normal part of our body and brains. They're part of the nerve actually. And when these proteins somehow become shaped the wrong way and created and designed in the wrong way, they get tangled up. That's how I kind of make it sense out of it. Tau tangles. And when they get tangled up in our brains, actually there is a good association with Alzheimer's and these tau tangles as well with that. When I was in Boston, we are starting to look at ways to detect tau tangles, and we are starting to look at ways where we can attack these tangles, these tau proteins, specifically for Alzheimer's as well. The neat thing about tau, and again, this is new information for most of the public here, is that we actually have a brain scan now available for tau. We have a brain scan obviously for the amyloid. Most of you who have been to my lectures are aware of that. We have a scan that has been designed specifically to find these taus. Tangles. Normal nerve cells with these, we call them neurofibrillary tangles that wrap around the brain's nerve cells. It kind of like chokes the nerves when you look at it that way. And that's how this causes damage to our brain cells with that. Tau tangles. Do you guys remember that now? Tau. With that. And the reason we are interested in tau is because we are finding actually here's an actual tau PET scan. Healthy brain. Amyloid brain with that. Probably can't see too much of a difference in here. But on a specific tau PET scan, the red, we can pick up tau now associated with Alzheimer's with that. And we actually do that at in Irvine Clinical Research in Irvine for folks who are participants in these clinical trials, where we do these scans to look for both amyloid and tau tangles with that. What is the significance of tau? This is a confusing graph because it has lots of little lines on it. But if the horizontal line is our timeline, okay, going out in years, and the vertical line is the amount of amyloid and tau that builds up in our brains. What we see is in patients with Alzheimer's, the level of amyloid builds up first. By the way, dementia is diagnosed over here. Over here, you are normal. You see this line here, this little dotted line? That's where we diagnose dementia. Look at where amyloid starts. It starts 20 years before the diagnosis. Amyloid starts 20 years before the diagnosis. Pretty crazy. Now, the tau is the green line here. Tau comes up after amyloid. So amyloid is an earlier detection system, but tau also comes up, and it's also earlier than the diagnosis of Alzheimer's. Both of these proteins will appear and cause silent damage in our brains before we make the diagnosis. Pretty scary. Scary, but at the same time, it gives us hope. What if we can detect it while you still have your memory? Right? Imagine what we can do on a prevention side if we can find these things while your memory is still intact. Amyloid 20 years before, tau a number of years before. Amyloid comes before tau does. But what's interesting is that tau protein, when we find tau, it is actually more closely correlated with memory loss than amyloid is. It's a marker that's more connected with the actual memory loss. If I were to connect a brain that has amyloid and a brain that has tau in it, I can closely monitor the tau and predict how that memory is going to go more closely than amyloid actually. This is all new stuff from Boston that we are learning with that. And as a result of that, we are actually developing medications to tackle tau. New stuff. So this is what we know about tau. Both amyloid and tau PET scans can predict cognitive decline, okay? Can predict memory loss. If we see over time that burden of amyloid increase, your risk for Alzheimer's increases. Okay, there's a correlation. Tau is in itself is associated with amyloid. We don't see tau by itself without amyloid. We always see it with amyloid. There's a relationship between the two of them. We don't know how to figure that out yet. Tau spreads from cell to cell. So the damage from tau proteins, it wraps one cell, kind of chokes it up a little bit, then it goes to the next cell right next to it, and then does the same thing, goes to the next cell right next to it. So it's a cell-to-cell spread. So we have learned that. I mentioned that tau appears after amyloid does. Amyloid comes first. Again, amyloid is a more sensitive marker because it comes first before tau. But tau is more closely related with poor memory performance. With that. Tau is actually in our brains. 90% of those who are elderly have tau. But just because it's in your brain doesn't mean that you're actually going to get Alzheimer's. If it accumulates in a certain part of the brain, abnormally, we call it the neocortex, that's when you're at risk for Alzheimer's with that. So tau, which is made and is part of our brain cell, if it accumulates abnormally in a certain part of the brain, that's when that risk for Alzheimer's appear with that. The PET scan for tau changes faster than the amyloid PET scan when you have memory changes. And new anti-tau medications are being studied currently. Guess where they're being studied? Right where I'm at. With that. We have anti-tau medications designed to tackle this problem with that. Okay, so that's a little bit something new, fresh off the press for you guys from Boston. Tau protein and what it can do and how it correlates to Alzheimer's with that. Okay. Something new from Boston. Very cool stuff. Did you know you can look in your eyes with a little eye scope from the ophthalmologist? And they can see stuff related to amyloid. Completely new research. Very early. Obviously, we can't do that on everyone because we're still looking at the data. We're still doing the clinical research with it. But retina scans, rather than brain scans, retina scans are being looked at and developed right now. I think in Northern California, actually, some folks are looking at it. And it's like going to the ophthalmologist's office where you look into that little machine with that. And the reason for that is simply because your retina is simply an extension of your brain. Did you guys know that? The retina is just part of the brain with that. And so if we can detect amyloid, in different parts of the brain, we can look at your brain by looking through your eyes. Being developed currently. So again, they presented some data and some results of early testing at Boston, and hopefully this will pan out where in a few years or so, and I can't guarantee it, but we will have better ways to diagnose and detect amyloid through a simple eye scan with that. Have you guys heard about this on the news somewhere? No? Okay. Bad press. All right. Retina scan. And as a matter of fact, here it is. Here are some pictures. Pictures of amyloid in the brain and pictures that they can see in your eye scan. Isn't that something? Yeah, and simply because the retina is part of your brain. Rather than doing a full scan of your brain through a PET scan, boy, if I can do a quick eye scan on you and give you, some heads up, wouldn't that be interesting on a prevention side of it? So retina scan, guys, is something new, hot off the press for you with that. Tau proteins and retina scans. Let me share with you some information about clinical research on Alzheimer's. Between 2002 to 2012, 10 years, right? 413 clinical trials studying 244 medications, 99.6% failure rate. One medication was approved. That's where that 0.4 comes in. One medication was approved. Anyone know the name of it? What was approved? Namenda. Anyone heard Namenda? A few hands. Yes, Namenda was the last medication approved for Alzheimer's in 2003 with that. From 2003 till now, our success rate is what? 0. Nothing new for Alzheimer's treatment. Nothing new FDA approved. It's crazy, isn't it? Why is it that we can have advances in cancer treatment, have advances in HIV, have advances in heart disease, and why is it that we are losing the battle with Alzheimer's? Somebody mentioned because it's diagnosed too late. That's a very good point. That's a very good point. Because most of these meds tested, we tested in patients who are given this diagnosis of Alzheimer's. And at what stage do normally our patients are in when we get this diagnosis? Moderate stage. The damage is done. The damage is done. 99.6% failure rate because the damage is done. We cannot stop this train once it's on this road. Pretty crazy. It's kind of gloomy, actually, with that. Namenda. Namenda is the one medication that was approved in 2003. So, by the way, this guy here, I met him, hung out with him in Boston. Dr. Hans Mobius, he is the developer of Namenda. He's the guy that led the team in Europe to create Namenda. Really cool guy. And so he's still trying to look for better treatment and cure at this point with that. But that is the guy behind your Namenda. The other guy's the tongue out guy. So, yeah, with that.
Trent, are there any other countries that are developing that are not yet FDA approved?
Other countries that are there any other countries that have medications for Alzheimer's not FDA approved? Right now, no. Yeah, it's a global effort. Clinical trials that are done now are done globally. It's not done in the United States. When we do clinical trials, there's usually 20 countries involved doing the same clinical trial. It is a global effort, right? Why do Alzheimer's clinical trial fail when everything else we have successes on with that? Some of you guys have seen this, right? Who have attended some other lectures of mine. Multiple causes of an associations with Alzheimer's. When I ask you what is the cause of Alzheimer's, can we name one thing, or is it from all over with that? There's over 30 different associations with Alzheimer's. There's not one cause and effect with that. And I normally put them into like 3 or 4 buckets of causes with that. For example, circulation. Circulation is a bucket of causes associated with Alzheimer's. If I took 10 patients with Alzheimer's, 8 of those patients have what? High blood pressure. If I took 10 patients with Alzheimer's, 4 of those patients have what? Diabetes. If I took 10 patients with Alzheimer's, 2 or 3 of them have heart disease, a whole bunch of them have high cholesterol. Those are all connected conditions that increases the risk for Alzheimer's. That's why I say there isn't one cause, there are buckets of causes. That's a circulation bucket alone. And how many of us walk around with, blood pressure issues and cholesterol and diabetes and all that with that? Inflammation is huge. How many of you guys know that sugar causes inflammation? Yeah, sugar is huge in our diet, isn't it? Right? And it's not just snacks and and desserts, it's really carbs, the refined carbs we eat that breaks down the sugar, right? White bread, white rice, pasta, all that stuff boils down to sugar, connects to create inflammation. Yes. That's right. Yeah, Exelon patch. Yeah, yes, that's a great point. Yes, ribostigmine. There's a longer name than that. Yes, that's one of the 4 approved, FDA approved medication for Alzheimer's disease. With that. Thanks for sharing that. So she was sharing that one of the Alzheimer's patches, which is a medication, has helped with her symptoms. And so that's great. And that's why it's FDA approved. They do definitely help with symptoms. The downside is we have nothing to help slow down progression other than treating the symptoms of Alzheimer's with that at this point. So there is, of course, Namenda and Aricept and the patch and things of that sort. And they do help with symptoms. So inflammation is a big bucket. Sugar is in that bucket. Red meat is in that bucket. Beef is in that bucket. Right? Fried food, junk food, things of that sort. Toxins. When we think of toxins, we kind of wonder, what are you talking about? What kind of toxins am I exposed to? There is a study published not too long ago showing that even if you live in areas of high pollution, you have a higher risk of Alzheimer's than those who live in areas of low pollution. So toxins don't necessarily have to come from anywhere except the air we breathe. That's aerial toxins with that. Toxins does come from food. We see it all the time. When you eat your steak, are you just eating your steak, or are there other things in there that you're, right? There's hormones fed to the cow that you're exposed to, and there's antibiotics fed to that cow, and so lots of other things play a role into toxins. Yes. Can you use glaucoma medications for Alzheimer's? Oh, well, currently the glaucoma is not correlated with Alzheimer's. Glaucoma does affect the retina, but the retina we are looking at to try to make a diagnosis by looking at amyloid. So you can't necessarily treat the retina to treat the Alzheimer's with that. But we're looking into it as more of a diagnostic tool. Great question. Lots of hormonal support. This is interesting because we know the association of memory loss with, let's say, B12 deficiency, with thyroid deficiencies. How many of you guys know that vitamin D12 deficiency is associated with Alzheimer's? How many of us here have low vitamin D? Both B and D, because I'm confused. Actually, the B12 deficiency is associated with memory loss, but vitamin D specifically 4 big studies showing the association with low vitamin D and Alzheimer's. Pretty crazy, isn't it? What is the normal range? The normal range in the lab, typically I think the bottom of normal is 30 and it goes all the way up, but we like to get it up to at least 50 or higher with that. But yes, most of us are not aware that of this association between vitamin D deficiency and memory loss. And the scary thing is, probably in 80% of my patients that I have checked vitamin D levels on, they're on the low side, despite living in Orange County, which makes no sense, right? So there's a problem with absorption, and there's a problem with maybe, getting enough sun or not getting enough sun. But the point is, everything we eat affects everything up here. Does that make sense? What dose of vitamin D? Check with your doctor, because it depends on your level of vitamin D. That level determines the dose you should be taking with that, or if you need it at all, because if you check it and the level's normal, then there's no point taking additional vitamin D. 4 different buckets from diseases such as diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, to circulation problems, to toxins, to red meat, to carbs, to sugar. Think of your brain as a house. Your brain is inside that house, and there is a roof on top of your brain. And outside, it is raining. It is raining outside. It is toxic rain. That is raindrops of hypertension, raindrops of diabetes, raindrops of fast food, raindrops of carbs. And what happens is the roof starts to leak. As it leaks, it is destroying our brain. Amyloid builds up, tau builds up. By the time a patient comes to me complaining of memory loss, I'm looking and I am already seeing tons of leaks all over, dozens of leaks. Where can I plug in first, right? This is why we cannot stop this running train. By the time our patient comes to us, I've already identified 3 things here, 2 things here, 4 things here, several things here. Where do I start to stop this leak? This is why our clinical trials are failing. We are doing clinical trials on patients who have multiple leaks in their roofs already. The damage is done. When we do clinical trials, how many medicines do we test at a time? 1 medicine at a time. In a proper clinical trial, how many leak are we trying to plug with that 1 medicine? 1, right? In a controlled clinical trial. 1 medicine to try to plug 1 leak. How are we going to stop Alzheimer's? Does it make sense to you now why 99.6% of clinical trials have failed? Right? How are we going to stop it when we are making this diagnosis way too late and we're doing clinical trials trying to plug 1 leak in a patient that has 20 leaks with that? I'm actually going to give you the answer. It's not all doom and gloom. Is there hope? Yes. Right. Genetics does play a big role. I didn't add genetics on there because genetics we have no control over. You either have the gene or you don't have the gene with that. But let me talk real quick about genetics. How many of you guys know the name of the gene that causes Alzheimer's? You forgot? Okay. This gene is called the ApoE4 gene. ApoE4. There's an ApoE2, an ApoE3, and an ApoE4. Okay? There's 3 expressions of this gene. If you have ApoE3, you're fine. No Alzheimer's. No risk for Alzheimer's. Okay? Lower risk. I'm not saying no risk. Lower risk. Okay? If I test your genes and you have 0 copy of ApoE4, okay? Let's say you don't have the gene. Your lifetime risk for Alzheimer's is 9%. 9. Okay? If I test your genes and you have 1 copy of ApoE4 from 1 parent, your lifetime risk of Alzheimer's jump up to 30% for having 1 copy. If I test your genes and you have both copies, that risk is over 50% of getting Alzheimer's. But I also have to say that just because you have the gene does not condemn you to the diagnosis. Does that make sense? Just because you have the gene does not condemn you to the diagnosis. Having the gene will increase your risk, but our lifestyle is what turns on and off this gene. Does that make sense? And I also have to say, if you don't have the gene, it doesn't mean you won't get the diagnosis either. Right? Remember those buckets? Inflammation, toxins, all that stuff? Your lifestyle can create this diagnosis without the gene, and having the gene doesn't condemn you to the diagnosis. Having the gene, though, will increase that risk, because that gene turns on many factors that creates amyloid. Okay? That's right. Creates amyloid. By the way, I just got this box this last week. It's a little small cube. I call it the cube. It's a Spartan box. In our office, for anyone interested, at no cost, we will check your gene for you, and we'll get you the results in 1 hour. It's a mouth swab. I do this little swab in your cheek, get some saliva, put it in the machine. It does this stuff. We get you the results in 1 hour. By the time you walk out of my office, you will know your genetics. We're offering this for free. It's not for free, but we're offering for free because our mission is to catch this problem early and to try to stop it. At what age should that be done? It should probably not be done when you're like 14. And there's probably no point doing it when you're 90. So if I were to give you an age range of when you should do this, I would say somewhere between age 60 to 80, 85 or so. You can check it. We would do that for free at no cost if you're interested, only if you are prepared for the results. Right? Only if you are prepared for the results, emotionally. You have to be emotionally prepared to get that result. So that's a big kicker, right? Because you're going to walk around knowing whether you have this gene or not. The folks who would be interested in something like this would be somebody who have a family history maybe. You know, if you have a parent who had Alzheimer's or a sister or a sibling, there may be an interest. Or if you're interested in maybe letting your kids know if they should be aware so they can start prevention early. Or the other thing that would lead somebody to want to know if they are genetically predisposed is if we give you a list of things that you can do in your lifestyle for prevention after you know. I would not want to know my genes if I had no tools with what to do with that result. Why would I want to know and just go home depressed the rest of my life, right? But if I was given the tools on diet, on exercise, right, on brain exercises, on things that I can do to lower my risk, then who wouldn't want to know? So they can start prevention now. Why wait till the damage occurs? Why not start prevention now? By the way, if you wanted to get that genetic testing thing, or if you want to just chat about it, that little half sheet on the table, that information thing, I think you just put your name and phone number and drop it off to Melanie, and we can bring you in and get you the results by the time you leave my office, with actually a list of things that you can do for prevention, because that's our goal. We got to catch this problem early, folks. We cannot catch it at the moderate stage. Yes? Yes, that's exactly right. Why not just do it now? Why not just do the prevention now, and and not worry about if you have the gene or don't have the gene? I mean, I would recommend that for everybody with that. The problem, though, is that this is still the third leading cause of death. And although we all know not to eat junk food, fast food, stuff like that, heart disease is still number one in our country. Why is that? Why is it that we have this knowledge and we're still killing ourselves with this knowledge? Economics? Yes, with that, right? I want to tell you real quick about Boston. What time do we got here? Okay. I want to tell you real quick about Boston. I'm going to show you all the medications in the pipeline for Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's disease drug development pipeline 2017 being looked at. There you go. Whoops. Hold on. There you go. These are all the stuff being tested right now. Every little dot. It's not that we are not working on this, folks. We are crazy working on it, if you look at all this. Do you know the difference between phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 studies before it gets to FDA approval? So when a medication is thought of in somebody's brain, and then it goes down all these phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 studies, and it gets FDA approval to go to the market, it's about 10 years on average. About 10 years. Everything here in the outside circle is the phase 1 stuff. That's the one that's in the earliest stages of development, the super early stages of development with that. And the purpose of phase 1 is two things. It is to make sure for safety, to make sure nobody drops off dead, right, taking this pill with that. And that's the main thing. Even before phase 1, outside the circle is when they're testing it on monkeys and rats and animals and things of that sort. Once that's successful, it goes into phase 1. If phase 1 is successful and the medication is safe, it moves on to phase 2. That's the middle circle here. These are all the medications in phase 2 currently being looked at. And there's a good number of them, aren't there? If a medication passes phase 2, then it moves to what phase? Phase 3, right in here. If you notice, the medicines in phase 3 is less than the medicines in phase 2, right? There's more phase 2 stuff than phase 3 because you have to pass one phase before you can move to the next phase. If you fail in one phase, you're done. Okay? So the stuff in here has passed through phase 2. Very hopeful, isn't there? A lot of stuff in phase 3 with that. Where I'm at in Irvine, we have a whole bunch of stuff in phase 2 and phase 3. I think we have like 14 different Alzheimer's studies and projects in phase 2 and 3 where we're at. And some of you have been there. Some of you are probably part of some study with that. In all of our studies, pretty much most of them, we offer these PET scans of the brain to look for amyloid. These scans aren't really available in the community because the insurance doesn't pay for them. But if you were a candidate and you wanted to know what's in the brain and you're a good candidate for a clinical trial, you can get one of these scans at no cost with that. And that's only if you're a candidate for it. Because you can be too smart and not qualify, or you can be not smart enough. And so the focus of all this here in phase 3, folks, is very interesting. We are now focused on looking at prevention, because we have failed 99.6% of the time trying to treat this thing at the moderate stage. We have learned from that. Hundreds and hundreds of failed clinical trials. As a result of those failures, we are now focusing at our Boston meeting on prevention. Most of these studies here are looking at patients who are very, very mild. Okay, when you're diagnosed and your conditions are mild. Or we have folks, and we are launching a study actually in the next few weeks, on patients who don't have the diagnosis, who are normal. And we want to prevent Alzheimer's in them. And what I'm doing is we're checking their genetics. If you have the gene and you're at risk for it, and if you're interested, we have a medication geared to stop it and prevent it from progressing. It's completely prevention. Clinical trials. That's where the focus is at now, because that's where our hope will be. I'm going to show you some clinical trial results now. You want to see some? All right, from Boston. Okay. So in phase 2, there's 52 different agents currently being tested with that. And then in phase 3, there is, let me see. There's 28 medicine. You notice it went from 50-something to 28 because those other ones failed. So to get to phase 3, we can start with hundreds of medicines and only 28 will make it. And at this 28, statistically, the majority may fail to even get to FDA approval with that. You see these words that says anti-this and anti-that? So anti-amyloid, anti-amyloid, anti-amyloid. Our goal now is to stop the amyloid, right? That plaque. That's why they're anti-amyloid medication. 4% anti-tau. We are starting anti-tau medications. That second protein I talked to you about, that is going to be developed. That's going to get bigger over time with that. When you see the word anti, what that means is that we are using an antibody. We are now using and priming the immune system to recognize the amyloid as the bad guy, so that your own immune system will eat up the amyloid. Does that make sense? We actually took this technology from cancer treatment. You guys have heard about immunotherapy and cancer treatment? Amazing stuff. In cancer treatment, we prime the immune system to recognize the cancer as the bad guy, so the immune system itself eats up the cancer cell. President Jimmy Carter, what cancer did he have? He had brain cancer. He's cured. He no longer has brain cancer from immunotherapy. We are taking this technology, we're bringing it over to Alzheimer's treatment. The medications, just about most of the medications we do in clinical research in Irvine, they're all immunotherapy based, because this is where we see hope. I'm going to show you some slides that will show some hope here with that. This was presented in Boston. Anti-amyloid treatment. This was actually just this past month, November. Baseline brains showing Alzheimer's. Plaque is in the red. What happened to it after 52 weeks? This number down here is the dose of the medication. So at the highest dose of the medication, we have turned an amyloid positive brain scan to an amyloid negative brain scan in patients. Very crazy news. Is this not hopeful? This is early though. This is early, right? Because not only do we need to prove that we can take away the amyloid, we also need to prove that we can at least stabilize the memory loss, right? What if you take away the amyloid but the memory loss continues? You still failed, right? So we need to connect the dots, and that's what's being done now where we're at. We're doing these studies in Irvine. We're actually using these medications in Irvine with that for those who are candidates and who qualify for it. But yet, presented just right in Boston. Crazy information. This is after 52 weeks of treatment, by the way. And we have shown that the farther you go out in treatment to 2 to 3 years, the better the results over time with that. Some of these are phase 2, some of these are phase 3. This is not any particular one with that. But yes, the phase 3s are being tested right now. So that is one amazing news. This is news that came out, Alzheimer's News Today, November 9th, 2017. This is one of the drug companies, Biogen. Their phase 1 data analysis, they extended that phase 1 to a 3-year treatment with that. And again, the news is that this medication, which is an antibody, anytime you see a medication that ends with MAB, MOB, like MOB, that's an antibody with that. That's immunotherapy. So this news shows that this medication reduces amyloid plaques, again in Alzheimer's patients. What's interesting is that in 36 months, how many of you guys have heard of the MMSE, mini mental status examinations? How many of you guys have been in my office and I asked you 3 words to repeat? Let me see your hands. All right. What are the 3 words, by the way? Apple table. So, yeah. So that is the mini mental status examination that we did. Mini mental status examination in patients with Alzheimer's. Over time, they get worse in their scores because their memory gets worse, right? They can't do apple, table, penny. They can't, subtract 7 from 100 and do all these other things. So their brain score goes down. The maximum brain score is what in that test? 30. 30 points is the maximum. So what this medication did is that we compared patients on treatment and patients who are not on treatment, and we looked at the decline of points from that score. So in a patient who was not on medication, they lost 7.9 or about 8 points after 3 years. Does that make sense? 36 months, they lost 8 points with that. We compared it to patients who were on the highest dose of this immunotherapy medication, and so those patients are down here. They lost 4 points. So they preserved half of their memory compared to somebody who is not on treatment. Does that make sense to you? So we are measuring these types of cognitive scoring with that to prove that we can slow down Alzheimer's, along with the pictures and the brain scans to show that we can take away plaque. So this was published just last month with that, November 9th, 2017. This is the progress we're making in Alzheimer's treatment. Let me show you something else here. All right. This was, what's the date on this? December 13. When was December 13? Yeah, 2 days ago. Right. This is all brand new stuff you're seeing, folks. 2 days ago. And what type of medicine is it if it ends in MAB? It's an antibody, right? Stimulates your own immune system to attack its own amyloid. With that high dose medication lowers amyloid plaque load. Isn't that crazy? And it says that this year's clinical trials on amyloid disease meeting held November 1 to 4th in Boston. So that's basically the meeting I was at, just published. Some hope, isn't there? Yeah, definitely some hope. We need to stop this train because our society cannot handle Alzheimer's as the third leading cause of death in Orange County. Definitely. We don't have enough nursing homes for our patients who are coming in this tsunami of Alzheimer's diagnosis in the next few years. The key is at the beginning. The key is prevention. You got to go all the way to the front of the disease. You got to plug in and protect your roof from all the rain, that toxic rain I talked about, right? And it's harder to protect it when you got 20 things leaking at the moderate stage. It's easier to protect it when we go to the beginning. We start early with diet, exercise, and with different things, right? With that. And our clinical research is also going to the beginning of this disease because we have failed miserably at the moderate stage of the disease. And at the beginning of this disease, and again, this is all early stuff, we have shown through immunotherapy that we can remove plaque. But we have to start early. We have to start very early, and we have to start with high doses of these immunotherapy medications to remove plaque. And again, you know, I'm hopeful, but at the same time, I'm also realistic to know that most of these clinical trials will fail. Because as statistics, we looked at our past and they've all failed. But we're now showing some hope with that. But I'm here to tell you that there is hope. If you have a family member or you yourself want to look for things that you can do. How many of you guys want to know things you can do right now? All right. You got a pen and paper? Eat right. Okay, 6 things, okay? And I'll show you some quick slides so we can end it here soon. Number one, physical exercise. Half an hour a day. You want to get your heartbeat going, right? Physical exercise, half an hour a day, 30 minutes. If you can't do 30 minutes a day, you can do 15 minutes twice a day, right? If you can't do 15 minutes twice a day, you can do 10 minutes 3 times a day. Try to get in at least 30 minutes a day. What bucket of causes does exercise help with? Circulation bucket, right? Between the circulation, inflammation, all that, exercise helps with that bucket. Number 2, brain exercises. Brain exercises. Brain exercises simply mean keeping your brain active, keeping it busy, keeping it thinking. Crossword puzzles, Sudoku, right? Chess, bridge, poker, or right? Different things to keep your brain going. Studies have shown that those who have a higher education have a lower risk for Alzheimer's than those who have a lower education. That has something to do with the brain exercise part, right? With that. Number 3, socialization. Socialization. Going out there, socializing, interacting with people, spending time with folks. And I think that has something to do with the brain exercise part of it. I think it's linked to it. Studies have shown that if you're out there socializing, coming here, going to meetings, you know, it's over, I don't know, how many clubs are here in the woods? Yeah, more than you can count, right? Join a club if you're not part of a club with that. Because if you're out there socializing, your risk of Alzheimer's is lower than those who are at home not socializing and isolated. Okay? Number 4, sleep. Getting adequate sleep. Okay? So, the reason sleep is so important, remember I mentioned about that homeostasis, that balance between amyloid production and amyloid removal, and how Alzheimer's occur when the production exceeds the removal. When is amyloid removed? That's right, during sleep. So what happens if you're not sleeping? Right? Nothing. Your amyloid ain't getting removed. Those who are not sleeping have a higher risk of Alzheimer's than those who get adequate sleep. And by adequate sleep, I'm talking about at least 6-7 hours of good sleep at night. Okay? Sleep apnea is a risk factor for Alzheimer's. because you're not getting blood to your brain. So untreated sleep apnea, okay, is a risk factor. If you have sleep apnea, make sure you're using that CPAP machine, BiPAP machine, or you're using the dental device to kind of keep the airway open. Here's another interesting link between Alzheimer's. Hearing loss. What? Who? What? Who are you again? Hearing loss is a risk factor for Alzheimer's. And here's why. We talked about brain stimulation, right? So when you have hearing loss, what are you losing? You're losing brain stimulation. You can't hear to stimulate your brain, right? So do not ignore hearing loss. Okay? Get that taken care of. Yes? Blindness would be an indication, a loss of stimulation. Right, I don't know if it's been studied, but yes, that would be an indication as well. What can you do with blindness? Next question. Okay, all right. The next one is number 5. You can read by using Braille. Awesome. Join the Braille Club here. Yes. Braille. Excellent answer. Braille. All right. Number 5. Is that number 5 or 6? We're on. Okay. Number 5. Yeah. Number 5 is getting your other medical conditions under control. Because we've already talked about the association with other medical conditions and Alzheimer's. High blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, right? Those are all associated risk factors to Alzheimer's. So if you have those things, make sure your blood pressure is under control. Make sure your blood sugar is under control, right? Make sure you're exercising. Number 6, the last one, diet. Take out that sheet of paper in front of you, the MIND diet. Everyone has one? Anyone needs one? Everyone, the MIND diet is the combination of the Mediterranean diet, okay, Mediterranean diet and a DASH diet. Have you guys heard of the Mediterranean diet? All right. So what's the first one on there? Green leafy vegetables. So the first 10 things on that list is healthy for the brain. The bottom 5 things is harmful for the brain. Does that make sense? First thing, green leafy vegetables. How many of us can do that? Green leafy vegetables. Okay, what's the second thing? Non-green leafy vegetables. Basically, the fruits we have back there for you, right, are part of the non-green leafy stuff, the bananas and apples and the other stuff. Okay, what's number 3? Nuts. Nuts can be pistachios, almonds, walnuts, okay? What is 1 serving of nut? A handful is 1 serving of nuts, okay? What's the next one? Berries, blackberries, blueberries, raspberries have been shown to be protective for the brain. What's next? Beans, flavonoids, good for the brain as well. What's next? Whole grains. The emphasis here is on the word whole. You want that fiber in the grain, because that fiber is what's going to be brain healthy with that. Okay, fiber helps with digestion, fiber helps in lowering cholesterol, fiber helps with heart disease, and believe it or not, fiber helps with the brain. What's next? Fish. How many of you guys like fish? You like it, but you can't eat it? Oh, vegetarian. Okay. I'm a vegetarian also because I have vegetables in every plate. But anyway, sorry, that's the other type of vegetarian. Yes. You can get, if you don't like fish, you can get it in fish capsules, right? You've seen fish oil capsules? You can get that as a supplement. What's next after that? Poultry, which is chicken, turkey, right? Chicken feet, stuff like that, right? So that is a replacement basically for your red meat. That is a replacement for red meat as part of your protein. What's next? Olive oil. Yes, olive oil has been studied extensively to be brain healthy and to reduce the risk of Alzheimer's with that. How many of you guys have heard about coconut oil? So, here's the difference between olive oil and coconut oil. Olive oil has really good science behind it. Coconut oil, we are still studying. It is in phase 3 clinical trials right now. So we don't know the verdict yet, other than the fact that the phase 1 studies have shown some good results with coconut oil, but we can't rely on phase 1 data. We have to do the stage 2, the stage 3 to get a really accurate answer for you. So coconut oil, we just don't know compared to olive oil with that. So olive oil has better science, coconut oil has better marketing. Make sense? What's after that? Wine. Okay. If you do not drink wine, please do not start. Don't say Dr. Trin recommended me to be an alcoholic so I can help my brain with that. But if you do drink wine, what is it, red or white? That's right. Why is it red? Have you guys heard of resveratrol? Resveratrol is on the skin of red grapes, which is what red wine is made of. Resveratrol is a very high antioxidant with that. We're going to have a quick question answer period right after this for you. Yeah. Yeah. The question is, what about organic food? Should organic food be promoted over non-organic food? The answer obviously is what? Why? Toxins, right? Organic food we know are healthier because we know they don't necessarily feed the animal stuff or the pesticides that are used. It's just that it's more pricey with that. Okay, so if you do drink red wine one a day, that's supposedly good for your brain because of resveratrol. As long as you do not add all the red wine glasses for the weekend, you're okay. Don't save it all for Saturday and drink it all at once with that. But other than that, red wine has been shown to be healthy. What are the bottom 5 things that are unhealthy for us? What's the number 1? Red meat. Okay, is that the American diet or not? What is second? Butter and margarine. Is that American diet? What's third? Cheese. Is that painful? Very painful. What's next? Pastries and sweets. Is that the American diet? And what's after that? Fried or fast food. Is that the American diet? Are we now, so is it any wonder why Alzheimer's is the 3rd leading cause of death anymore? Make sense? Do you know prevention now? Good. Now, real quick, I'm going to have Carrie come up with me. Is Carrie here? And we're going to have a quick, because time is short, we're going to have a quick, 5-10 minute question and answer period for you. But if you wanted to speak with me further, that little half sheet is what you fill out. I do completely free consultations at no cost. We can do a memory test for you. If you wanted to check your genetics, we would do that at no cost. If you want to talk about clinical trials, we can do that too. But that little half sheet, you just fill it out and you turn it into the back with Melanie with that. But okay, how many of you guys have been to Alzheimer's Orange County before? Whoa, very good. Ask Carrie some questions about it, what they do.
Anybody have any questions? Let's see, I'll choose this, I'm sorry to point, this lady in the black, go ahead.
Do we have another mic? I'm wondering. We'll bring the mic.
Thank you so much.
Hi, Dr. Train. My name is Sarah. I have been diagnosed with the cancer, ovarian cancer, past 2 years. So I have been treated, and I'm surviving. Past 1 year, I had almost every week panic attack, and a lot of noise in my brain, and I cannot handle anymore. Since November 11, I tried to join the club and find a lot of new friends, these people, and thanks to them. And God helped me to kind of control myself a little bit. But now I need your help. I don't want to die with the craziness. Thank you so much.
I appreciate the willingness of people to share their stories, because I'm sure that there's many more of us that have things that we're going through that we don't want to share. So thank you for your courage.
Prevention, high school prevention. Do you do high school prevention? And if so, these kids that feel that they're nothing can happen to them, do you do it in the 20-year-old? And what is your stature in that field?
Were you asking about does he work with it? Well, I'll answer for what we do, and then Dr. Trin can add. We actually do go into the high school science classes and talk to the students. As a matter of fact, we are just forming some focus groups, and we're going to reach out to the parents and faculty, and then separately to the students, and figure out what they need and how do they want the information. So we're just going to be launching a full-scale effort in high schools this year, as a matter of fact.
With that in mind, I really think you have to educate better the general public, the parents who use these, because many of the women work and they don't have time to cook. And so they run out to the fast food and bring home a pizza or whatever to the family. And they have to be educated what they're doing to their children. Just going to the high school is not going to help. You got to get to the parents. And when the kids are younger and they start feeding them properly, maybe then we probably can defeat this.
I think that it's a multi-pronged approach, because the kids have an awareness, and we're also working with the kids to reduce the stigma and just get people to talk. But you're right, it's definitely a all society effort.
I just heard something recently about canola oil not being good for you, and I'm just wondering if you know anything about that.
The gentleman was asking about canola oil, and he had heard recently that canola oil wasn't all that good for you. Have you heard anything about this?
I have a mic. The studies have been shown mainly on the benefits of olive oil over the other oils. I would say the other oils have not been tested as well, but we do know that olive oil is the key one for brain health. I have a list up here for you. Anti-inflammatory nutrients, omega-3, turmeric, water hyssop, coumarin seed, blueberry stuff. The effects in the clinical trials on the benefits and the studies where it was published on. Also published in Boston on specific things you can eat as far as supplementation and things of that sort. If you see me in the office, I will just give you a printout for all this stuff. You don't necessarily have to take pictures. We'll just give you a printout in the office if you drop by and get you all that.
Okay, I think we have another question over here.
Doctor, there was a report out, and it didn't make much headlines, that an association are leaning towards Alzheimer's. There's an indication people with low blood pressure in the older age is contributing to Alzheimer's, dementia, because of lack of blood flow to the brain.
Yes, low blood pressure risk and Alzheimer's with that. We know that the majority of us have a problem with high blood pressure, right? And not low blood pressure. But we have seen instances where if you're hospitalized and due to dehydration, due to infections, due to certain conditions where your blood pressure is low for an extended period of time, that obviously cuts down the circulation in your brain and can cause damage to the brain. So yes, there is a correlation, abnormally low blood pressure. Although I would say most time I'm not worried because I'm always worried about high blood pressure. But you're correct.
Well, my wife has that characteristic of low blood pressure. It's not off the bottom, but it's...
That means she can eat a little bit more salt. If it's too low.
The other one on the omega-3, there is a beef product in Texas that has been increased to 8, I think, on the count on omega-3 by feeding the cattle a supplement of flaxseed and algae. And
Interesting. He mentioned there's a beef product that has a whole bunch of omega-3 in it because of the stuff they feed the cows. Do you guys want to see more graphs like this? Hold on, let me get to more graphs like that. Okay, let's see. This is all from Boston. You know those risk factors I talked about that's connected with Alzheimer's, cardiovascular diabetes, hypertension, and things of that sort? Here's how you reduce those risk factors through diet alone. Plant-based diet. Having a plant-based diet, the protein can come from a whole bunch of stuff with that. Nuts, flax seeds, seeds, different things. A plant-based diet reduces all these risk factors with that. And here's the level of what they're reduced to. And here's the clinical studies that it was published in, the journals. Just a plant-based diet alone makes a big difference. Yes? Yeah, if you see me in the office, I can print out copies of all this for you. I don't have any copies here. I just have a PowerPoint with that. But we'll give you a copy of everything that I have on the PowerPoint with that. We'll just have to print it out. Plant-based diet. You want to see some more graphs? All right. The correlation between eating animal meat and Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's disease here, meat supply here, here's the correlation. Pretty crazy, isn't it? Especially in our diet. So there is something about meat, specifically red meat, that is pro-inflammatory, that has perhaps toxins if it's not organic, that is causing this correlation that we see with that. So, yeah, pretty crazy stuff that's been published that we're learning on diet. Yes? Yeah. Yeah, come by, fill out that half sheet with your name and number. We'll give you a call. You can come by. We can chat more about all the details. Yes? Eggs. There's a question about eggs. There's a correlation. It's not a 100% correlation. Meat up here is 0.95. It's almost at a 1:1 correlation. Eggs is about a 50% correlation with that. Yes? Avocado is good fat. Has good fat. Yeah, with that. So I have a lot more of these different slides and things of that sort I can share with you. Obviously, time is short during these seminars, but you know, in the office we can chat more in detail with all that. But bottom line is we are very hopeful because you've seen these earlier studies now of what we can do with these antibodies. Yes? Yeah, coconut oil, again, is being studied. We don't have the verdict out on that. Yes? Alkaline water. Alkaline water. Yes, good question. So I have not seen a lot of studies on it. I know that they sell it everywhere. You want your pH high, right? There is something about low pH and causing damage. Okay, we know that, but we have not made the full connection yet. But yeah, folks are drinking a lot of alkaline water with that. Although it always makes me wonder because your stomach is a pH of 2, right? Super acidic. I wonder what happened once the alkaline water hits that stomach. I think the alkalinity just goes away. Empty stomach, got it. Yes, so the study is still out on that. Yes, hydration is very important. Avoiding dehydration is key to every condition, every disease from the kidneys to the liver to everything else, including the brain with that. Yeah. Filtered water through the refrigerator versus bottled water. Good question. I don't think anyone's looked into that as a comparison to see if one is safer than the other or if they're both okay. But I know the filtration process theoretically should be pretty good with that. Yes. That's right. This is for alcoholics. Yeah, 1 glass of wine a day has been shown in the studies to be helpful for the brain, for those who can stop at 1 glass a day. By the way, that study with that Mediterranean mind diet you have, we have taken groups of patients, put them on this Mediterranean diet, this mind diet. We compared them with a group of patients who are not on the diet. We followed both groups of patients for up to a number of years. At the end of those number of years, we looked to see who developed Alzheimer's, how many patients developed Alzheimer's from both groups. The group that is on the diet cut down their risks by 50%. Pretty crazy. Yes? Oh, how many ounces of red wine? Like that, yeah, the glass could be this big with that. I think it's about 4 ounces. Yeah. 6 is normal, yeah. Yes. Can any what? Oh, optometrists, no. Yeah, most ophthalmologists do not have the scans, the eye scans. This is still in clinical research with that. Phase 1, yes. Yes, you can eat red grapes and get the same results. Right, or raisins without drinking the wine. Yes, and fiber along with that. Okay, guys, I'm hungry. I'm going to go eat a hamburger, so thanks a lot. Bye.